Today's guest was drafted by the Dodgers in the 27th round of last year's draft, a few months after graduating Brown University, and then helped Ogden to a playoff run. Please welcome Mr. Austin French. Austin, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Steve.
Appreciate it very much. Wow, what a journey for the last, 8 months or so. Talk about the transition from the Ivy League to being drafted and then to the Pioneer League, and what along the way has kind of surprised you the most?
The journey was definitely fun. I mean, school was definitely tough, so mixing that with baseball was always a little bit of a challenge, and my senior year was a little bit harder especially, but I made it through, and I learned a lot. I grew a lot from Brown. There was a lot of positive things to take. I mean, obviously there's always going to be some negatives, but I'm a pretty optimistic person, so I always try to, take the positives away. Graduated, and then I had a couple weeks before the draft, so I kind of did a couple workouts. Actually flew out to LA, which was a really awesome experience. Got to see the stadium, got to see all that, and then the rest was history. And before you know it, I'm getting my name called on draft day, and then a couple days later, I'm flying out to Arizona to join the rest of the guys, which was a really good experience. And from there, I did about 2 weeks of working out. They had us do bullpens and all that fun stuff to get us acclimated, and they shipped a couple of us out to the Pioneer League. And next thing you know, I'm back in game action. So that was a lot of fun. It was a lot of like up and down, like sitting and waiting, and but I couldn't wait to get out into the field. And I hit the ground running. That was probably the best part, was just kind of get out in that experience. It was weird because the first game I think I pitched in was like 4,000 people, and I didn't realize it because I was just like taking in the moment. I wasn't nervous, and it was a day I'll probably never forget. But I took a lot. I grew a lot. It was a really good experience. The competition was a lot better than what I'd seen. Obviously, for anyone coming from college to the pros, where in college, 1 through 5 is good, with the rest of the lineup being, you could kind of make your way through it. But especially in pro ball, everyone can hit. Everyone has really good strengths. You really have to like work around and see what their weaknesses are. But yeah, I took a lot out of it. I grew a lot, which I always look back at the end of the season and reflect, like, did I grow in what areas? I mean, I grew as a person. I matured a lot. I learned, because in pro ball, you really have to work for yourself.
Sure.
College, some kids like to almost get your hand held a little bit and guide your way through it. And I kind of took my work ethic in college and put it right into pro ball.
Nice. Well, let's talk about college a little bit, because you had various arm angles, various roles on the team. You went from the bullpen to becoming a starting pitcher. I mean, after your surgery and through the struggles, did you think that you were going to be where you are today? And talk about, how did you get through those challenges?
It was definitely a wake up call. I mean, high school, I breezed through high school. I just did really well, and I came to college, and I started off, I was like 88 over the top. And I always threw a little bit sidearm. I drop it in there a little bit every now and then. I mean, when I say sidearm, it wasn't completely sidearm, but it was lower, where I went from 88 to 80 my freshman year. And my coach kind of fell in love with that. And at the time, we didn't have like the best record, but he saw me in a really like relief situational position. So I would come in, and I just never really felt like I was comfortable down there. And so that was kind of based off of my freshman season, was a lot of like figuring out why that was working and why it wasn't working. I had a conversation like, look, like if I'm gonna succeed, I'm gonna have to be over the top.
Yeah.
And then I had a really good freshman summer with the Ocean State Waves and NCBL. Had a really good thing, and then I noticed a little bit of like tightness in my cuff. So I went to New York and spoke with Dr. Alchek. He's the doctor for the Mets, and he told me I had like a little bit of like a bone spur, very like minor thing, which was good for me. I thought it was cuff or labrum or nothing, but everything was intact. So I had that surgery, 3-month recovery. Kind of rushed it back a little bit my sophomore year. I was so eager to get on the field because it had been so long before I'd seen like competition. So I definitely struggled a little bit that summer. I mean that spring, but that summer I had a really good, coming back. I felt good. I got a lot of innings under my belt. Junior year started off a little bit slow. My velo was a little bit down. I think I was sitting around 86, couldn't really figure out why, and I was like, I got to take it in my own hands. I started getting on a really good program, really good long toss, and one game I went from 86, and the next game I was at 92. And that was a little bit, we had a little bit of a break, so it was about a week and a half span, but I was like, I'm 6'4", 200 pounds, 210 pounds. I shouldn't be throwing, that slow when I have a good body, I have a good arm.
Sure.
So I really started working hard, and that's when, ever since then, it kind of just took off.
Very nice, very nice. And talking about Brown University, you wore the number 19. I wonder what's the significance of number 19, or was that just the number you were assigned?
That just happened to be the number I was assigned.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I've always been 41 because of Randy Johnson. Always growing up, I like idolized him, and I was like, oh, the big unit, the big lefty. I was like, I want to be like him. Like I'm
Sure.
a big guy. Like I'm, I throw hard, so that's what I always wanted to be. So growing up, I was like 41, 41, 41, and I got to college, and they were like, pick a number, and there was like 3 available, and I was like, I don't know, just give me one. But 19 kind of stuck with me, and I actually really like. It was something different. It was like a change of identity, but it wasn't. It was something that I wanted to make a stamp on. Like, oh, that's number 19, so that's something different.
Nice. Okay. Very good. Very good. Yeah, I had wondered about that, and I was trying to think of what lefties can I think of that are number 19, and I wasn't really coming up with any. But
Yeah, numbers are a little bit limited in college, so
sure. Yeah. And then I was like, well, maybe it's just a thing where, yeah, that's just what we have available there, son.
yeah,
So
it just fell into my lap.
absolutely, absolutely. Now, you've been both a starter and a reliever. Which do you prefer?
It's a very tough thing. So this summer I kind of also was mixed into it. I would spot start, I would relieve, I would piggyback the starter. They were really just like Pioneer League. Our team was like trying to get the newer kids into a role they liked, or we had a couple injuries, so I had to fill in there. For me, whatever they tell me is what I'm going to do. I have no problem with. I have no personal preference either. I just want to compete and be out in the field. But towards the end of the season, I found a lot of success in being a setup reliever guy. We know like a lot of lefties, so they would bring me in for 2 innings if the lineup showed 4 out of 6 lefties, or 1 inning if it was 2 out of 3. And I saw a lot of success. Strikeouts rose, like ERA went down, so a lot of good things were happening for me there when I kind of had a more concrete role. Because
Sure.
it's tough for my body to go from starting to relieving.
Oh, yeah.
So for me, wherever I am is what I kind of want to stay. I mean, granted, it obviously is based on performance as well. If you're not performing as a starter, you're going to get bumped.
Sure.
But I understand that. But just I want to stay in a concrete role, which was so yeah, no personal preference, but it was actually fun to come in and face just lefties. It was a lot different.
Sure. Well, let me press you a little bit on that. I mean, in your wildest dreams, are you starting Game 7 or are you finishing it?
Probably finishing it now that I kind of grew a little bit over the summer and realized that I find my strengths to match up better in a relief situation than a starting situation. For me, is what I noticed, that my stuff gets a little bit more, quote unquote, nasty, but it gets a lot better when I'm, in a direct frame, like tunnel vision in the eighth. Like it's a really fun feeling.
Nice, nice. Now, tell us a little bit, especially for the fans who, may not be looking at the Ogden Raptors, fans of the Dodgers, and they're wondering about Austin French. Tell us a little bit about yourself as a pitcher, and in your opinion, what's your best pitch? What's your go-to?
As a pitcher, like I said earlier, I'm a pretty optimistic person, but I'm also a really calm person, and everyone around me knows that. So like I try to remain pretty cool in every situation. High impact game or whatever, but I always try to remain pretty cool. So when I'm on the mound, I learned early that it's not good to show your emotion. And it's a good healthy balance. You don't want to be like swearing in your glove or like showing people that you're a little bit rattled, because that's when it could really get to you.
Sure.
So I always try to remain really composed. If I get upset, I'm gonna rather like get mad at myself in the dugout rather than show it to 5,000 people looking at you. But yeah, that's the kind of pitcher I am. I don't try to speed up like too quick, but I don't try to slow down. I try to play my kind of game versus let the hitters dictate what I do.
Good.
So that's kind of what I do. What was your other question?
Just about maybe what your go-to pitch is. I mean, what's your best pitch?
Yeah, so halfway through college, right when I told you my junior year, kind of I elevated myself.
Yeah.
In that week and a half span, I was like, this curveball's not doing it for me. And I actually, senior on the team, another pitcher was like, try this slider grip. I was like, I've never done a slider before. Like, how is that going to work? And from the first day I threw that, I was like, that's it. Like, that's going to be the money pitch. Like, that's going to be the strikeout pitch.
Nice.
And ever since then, that's been my go-to. I think my strike percentage on my slider this past summer was like 80%. Like, I can throw it 3-2, 0-2, 0-0 at any point, and that's really my go-to. I mean, everyone says you build up your fastball, and I've been throwing a fastball since I was 6.
Sure.
But it's nice to have that kind of weapon in your pocket that you can go to and be just as good with it and effective with it as your fastball.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, talk about. I mean, you said you've been playing since you were 6 years old. Who was your favorite team, and what were the pitchers? I mean, you talked about Randy Johnson, but what other players maybe were you emulating back in the day?
Well, being from Connecticut, I'm kind of on the border of New York and Boston, so it's
Sure.
kind of split in half. But I happen to fall where there's more Yankees fans than Red Sox fans, so I'm a huge Yankee fan
Okay.
at heart, and I've always been. But Randy Johnson and Andy Pettitte were two guys that I always really looked up to, and just really kind of like watched how they threw. And as I got older, I kind of watched more and understood more. I mean, early you're just like, wow, like they're throwing hard, like
Yeah.
that's really cool. But as you get older, you're like, but why? But why are they throwing hard? And why are
Sure.
all these things happening? So for me, those two guys were really cool to watch. Mariano Rivera was also, that's what I kind of like, was his composure. No matter what, he was always the same.
Yeah.
So that was really really interesting, and really something that was cool to be a part of as a Yankees fan, was to watch that team kind of come up through the early years of 2000s and on.
Well, you bring up Andy Pettit, and I just wonder for Dodger fans on their behalf. I mean, how's your pickoff move?
it it's good. I always try to work on it because it's always something that you really need. I think I picked up a few guys this summer, but for
Good.
me, it's more speed. Speed this summer was a lot different than what I saw.
Sure.
A lot of guys, like, you take your plus runners in college and you make that even more in a pro ball. So there's a lot more guys can run. So for me, it's just about keeping them close
Yeah.
and on their toes, and using more of a slide step too to be quicker to the plate, because a lefty with a slide step is really hard to run on.
Absolutely, absolutely. And another question I think I would like to ask on behalf of all Dodger fans is, I mean, just how are you feeling? Your general health, and how's your arm?
Honestly, I feel like it's a pretty cliche thing to say, but I've never honestly felt better.
Good.
I've really, with no school this past off season, it's been really good for me to really focus. I mean, I spend 3 hours in the gym every day.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
staying healthy. I work out at Cressy Sports Performance, which they have locations in Mass and Florida, but I'm pretty much there with 25 other pro guys from Corey Kluber's up there. He works out a little bit before me, but you still get around all these guys and you get the feel of big league feels and just pro guy feels. And
Sure.
they have a massage guy up there, so I get treatment from him once every couple of weeks, and that
Good.
has really helped me stay healthy. And I feel really really good going into my first spring training. So for me, that was all about. So
Talk about that. That's got to be amazing. I mean, your first spring training. What's going through your mind right now?
a lot of excitement. A lot of people ask me questions like, "What do you do?" Like, what? I'm like, I have no clue. Like, it's all as new to me as it is about the people asking. So
Sure.
I've kind of gathered information from other guys, especially working out up there, where guys have already been through spring training. I've kind of picked their minds, like, what do you do, or what do you find most effective before you get there that you have to do. So, but for me, it's like pure excitement, mostly because I'm getting into the warmth and I get get to face real hitters too. So that's nice.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm looking forward to spring training for the same reason. I want to talk about your expectations for yourself in 2017. As you say, you haven't been through a spring training before. Last year was kind of a different situation coming from the Ivy League and going to Ogden. What are your expectations for your 2017 season?
I mean, every person's expectation is, put up good numbers and all that good stuff, and that kind of fills people's heads. But for me, I want to grow. I want to grow, and I want to take every game and make it its own game. Make that like that game is the season, because it doesn't help anybody by jumping ahead like, oh, what if I do this? Like, well, what's going to happen tomorrow, or is something bad going to happen? So for me, I want to stay like level headed and be the same person as I was on day one at the end of wherever I go, wherever at that last day of the season. And another goal is just to stay healthy. It's gonna be a long season. It's gonna be a lot of grinding, a lot of pitching. So for me, just to stay on my same like habits, my rituals and stuff, and just stay healthy, because that's gonna get me through the whole season and pitching well.
I mean, this is going to be what, two, almost three times longer than any baseball season you've been a part of, or
Yeah, it's not even just been a part of consistently, I would say,
yeah,
because you have your college ball, you start early, but then you have a drop off. With the Ivy League, it was ending in the end of April. I had a month and a half before summer ball, and then
yeah.
summer ball. So yeah, this is going to be the most consistent schedule regimen I've probably been on.
I know you've been playing baseball since you were 6 years old. Who got you into it? Obviously, probably your parents. And who is the biggest influence that you would say on your baseball career thus far?
So I'm too young to remember why I actually started, but I think everyone starts playing t-ball. Like, I don't know what kid or most kids end up playing t-ball when they're little, but that kind of grew. And I remember when I was 10, I had a friend. I wasn't a pitcher up until then. He's like, "Hey, you should try a pitch." I'm like, "Come on, man, that's the worst. Like, I don't want to pitch." Like, no. And he's like, "Just try." And ever since then, everyone was like, "Wow, like, he looks like he's something special." And so I kind of ran away with it after that. And have since then, just been pitching has been my whole life. I feel like I've been pitching since I was born. But as far as influence, I mean, you got to go with your parents. I mean, especially my dad. He's always been there. He's always helped me. Up until recently, he's thrown with me. It's a little bit harder now because I throw so hard.
Sure, yeah.
just for him and just catching and stuff. But yeah, he's been probably my biggest influence. Growing up wise, he's always been there. He's always provided me with everything I've needed. Both parents, obviously, but just my dad because he went to every practice. He watched and he learned too. What the coaches used to say about like my form and stuff, and he was able to be like my coach when my coaches weren't there.
Nice. Very good. Very good. Now, I want you to talk a little bit about your strategies when you're pitching. What's your approach? I mean, let's say you're facing the cleanup hitter and, you've got some runners on. How do you attack that hitter?
Well, beforehand, which we didn't do at college, you get to watch film on guys. If you've seen them before, so you get to watch what their habits are. But I got really good at this summer was watching people's hands and seeing where their swing path was. So if they were a little bit under the ball or a little bit over, I would dictate where I would place my fastball or place my slider, and that's what I got a lot better at. I mean, I struggled a little bit during my season, like so far, like in the past summer, but I grew a ton. I feel like I took a lot more out of it, and there were a lot more positives than there were negatives. So for me, that was what was important to me. It wasn't so much about outcome, which it's always important, but you got to kind of look past that at some points and see, hey, like I walked this guy, but what was the good part about that? Like, what did I do well that I can build upon and take into next time? So that's what I kind of looked at it as. But yeah, I just watch their hands and see all that good stuff and just go from there. And really also pitch to my strengths and not their weaknesses, because their weaknesses may also be my weakness.
Sure. Yeah.
So if he's really good at hitting the inside pitch and I'm really good at throwing the inside pitch, I'm still going to do what I do well because I don't want him to dictate what I do, but I'm also still going to be self-conscious about that. And if I'm going to throw it in, I'm going to make sure it's in a good spot and not somewhere that he's really good at.
Good. Don't leave it over the plate, buddy. No.
Yeah.
Now talk about Ogden a little bit. I mean, for one, is the Pioneer League kind of like playing in Coors Field for maybe the Dodger fans, so they have a little bit of perspective. And then also talk about what your favorite organic food there was.
It was a launching pad. I've never seen balls fly out of a park like that before. I mean, down here, the altitude has nothing to do with how home runs and stuff. But I gave up a few home runs that I was like, "Are you kidding me?" I had one shortstop. He was like, "Dude, I don't know what to tell you. Like, I don't know how that got out, but hey, it's part of the game,
Sure.
I mean, I couldn't imagine pitching at Coors Field every single time, but hey, you got to deal with it, and that's what it is. And it wasn't as bad as it sounds, but you definitely see balls that go farther than you could have ever imagined. Like they would have been home runs, but you're like, wow, that went a lot farther. But and the organic food, we had a private chef, which was awesome. He was a great guy, and they invested that organic food program in the Dodgers, which was really beneficial to me. I learned a lot from eating perspective. I've always been pretty good about eating well, but definitely learned a lot more. So anytime that he made some of his pork or ribs or barbecue stuff was great. But everything he made was awesome.
All right, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today. I know I speak for all Dodger fans when I wish you all the success in the world in the 2017 season and beyond. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Austin French.
Thanks for having me, Steve. I look forward to talking to you too in the future.
We look forward to hearing from you all season long, Austin. And again, the best of luck.
Thank you. Thank you very much.